Hello, Malcolm.
Good day. How are you?
I've just said I'm going to introduce you, Malcolm, and then I didn't. I just said hello. So let me introduce you. So Malcolm Prescott in the flesh. Well, he's not in the flesh. He is in the flesh where he is, but I can see you anyway. So if you're watching this, you're going to be able to see what a dashing man Malcolm Prescott is in his suit and tie, looking every inch the MD of Webbers Estate Agencies in Devon and Cornwall, 18 branches. What else do I need to know and tell the listeners about Malcolm?
Well, I'd say to start with, I'm not so sure about the dashing.
That is in the eye of the beholder. So luckily for you, I have decided you are dashing.
Right. Well, okay, I'll take it then. And with 13 branches.
I've just added 5 branches on.
You've just given us 5.
Is this for Rightmove's benefit?
No, this is definitely 13 branches.
Okay, 13. Yeah, I was recording this in the future.
Right. Well, who knows? Who knows?
And how long have you been at the helm of Webbers?
Well, believe it or not, I've been with Webbers for 38 years, which
38 years?
Which seems like a bit of a shift. But 38 years I've been with Webbers, and I've been in this position now for around 20 years.
Crikey. Yeah, and you and I are both getting to the next chapter of our lives. Have you thought at all about retiring or doing something different, or is this it? If I feel like if I cut you in half, it'll just say Webbers round the middle of you like a stick of rock.
Well, I've often said it's either this or prison. I don't know anything else. When I left school at 16, I went into agency, and it's all I've ever done. And I am thankful that I genuinely still enjoy doing what I do. Because I think, honestly, there's a lot of people out there who are probably 60% happy or 70% happy in what they do. But I do love what I do, and I still enjoy trying to be the market leader in this part of the world.
And you certainly are. So you and I have known each other for quite a while now. I think I worked out it's about 14 years or something.
Yeah, I think we met at a Guild of Property Professionals conference in central London. Right. And that was the year that we were crowned best agent in the UK. I remember the night well. We had just 1 or 2 glasses of orange juice to celebrate.
I'm sure you did. So we've known each other a while, and I remember that night too. It was a good night. And I think we've bumped into each other on the circuit, kind of on the I was on the speaking circuit for quite a while with NAA and Fine & Country actually and beyond. You've got a Fine & Country licence, haven't you, in your offices?
Yeah, we've got Fine & Country across the Webbers network. So all of our offices have the Fine & Country licence. Yep.
You did well there, because if one town or area had already gone, you'd have a hole in your network, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would. And, I suppose, we are founder members, I guess, of that group, as we are founder members of the Guild. So we were there right at the start. So I guess in many ways that enabled us to make sure that we did, get the licenses that we needed to cover the patch that we do. Yeah. And, one of our issues really as a business, and we might come on to this in some of the other areas we discuss, is our geographical spread is so huge. To drive from Taunton in West Somerset and over to Bodmin in Cornwall, that's probably an hour and a half, hour and 3/4 hour drive. It's a long way. So it is quite a challenge to if I wanted to get all of our staff together on a Friday evening for a discussion, it wouldn't happen because of our geographical spread. So for training and that sort of thing, it can be a challenge in truth.
Yeah, I can imagine. But you've got the area, I'm not going to say you've got the area sewn up, but you are market leader in the area. You can't drive to and through Devon and Cornwall without seeing so many of your boards. That must give you a nice feel. Yeah,
it does. It's, one of the oldest forms of promotion in agencies still is one of the most important. If you drive into a patch and you see the Webbers boards, it always gives me a thrill. And if the Webbers board isn't quite straight, or if it's, not, then that also frustrates me because I just think they're so important. It says a lot about the brand, your boards. And, so yeah, we've got a fairly good spread of boards right across Somerset, Devon and Cornwall.
You definitely have. We've got some Mastermind members in central London and they're not allowed boards there. And I always think that's hard, isn't it? I can understand from an aesthetic point of view, especially when you've got flats, you'd have boards absolutely everywhere. And there was a lot of fly boarding. So some boroughs just said, right, no boards. That's it. And if you've got like a nice muse property or, a really lovely Victorian townhouse, you're going to want your board outside. That is hard, I think, from a brand recognition standpoint.
Yeah, I think.
Especially as a new brand.
I'll tell you a story about a guy that I used to work with. He's now retired. And at the time I was senior negotiator and Chris was the manager of the office I worked at, which was Minehead. And Chris was a brilliant salesman. He was brilliant. And we were going to a property in just one of those roads where, as a rule, you didn't see for sale boards. And I said to Chris before we went, you'll never get a board on this property. When we got to the property, there were two ladies that, I think they were sisters, if I remember rightly, but they were in their sort of late 70s. And I remember thinking straight away, no chance, you will not get a board. And actually what Chris did, probably if he did it today, he'd probably be cancelled. But I'll never forget it. We got to the end of the appointment and he hadn't talked about the board at all. And I thought, he's not going to ask because he's realised that that's just not going to happen. And right at the end of the appointment, he leant forward, he put his hand on this lady's knee and he said, now, where are we going to put that for sale board for you? And she looked and said, oh, Mr. Willie, which is what his name was, Chris Willie. Mr. Willie. And she looked at the lady and she said, where are we going to put the board? She said, well, I don't know. And of course, Chris looked at me and winked. And he left it to the last minute, but it was just that subtle change of words, clever. Which is, where are we going to put that board for you?
Where are we going to put the board?
And I think he was probably Webbers were the first agent to have a board in Parkhouse Road, Minehead.
That's amazing.
Years ago.
It worked then. Do you know, I was at a Josh Fegan conference years ago with Perry Power, actually. And Josh was saying that at the end of his appointment, it's a very similar story, when he didn't know if he was going to get it or not, he just turned to the lady and said, now, do you have a spare key or do I need to get one cut?
Yeah, like it.
Oh, I've got a spare. And that was it, done.
Yeah. Assumptive close.
It's funny. So we've been on the phone a couple of times recently. We've been doing a little bit of toing and froing with talking about things like mystery shops, which I'd like to talk about on this, if that's okay. Share as much as you want to. And also things like staff training, telephone training, those kind of things. We also got off on tangents with subjects like Rightmove. And I would really like to ask you about that now, because it's been on my mind ever since we spoke. And Phil and I have spoken a lot about this recently, because Rightmove have just, as I'm sure you know, put the fees up again. And it's going to be £1,800 a month for the absolute basic, no extras whatsoever, just for sales only. And I know that you pay a considerable amount of money to Rightmove. And we were talking about, is this going to be the stranglehold forever? What could happen to change it? Where are the competitors? I spoke to Jason Tebb after I spoke to you from On the Market to say, what can we do? And I would just really love to hear your projections. Get your crystal ball out and tell us what's going to happen about Rightmove over the next few years.
Okay. I mean, we were one of those agents that signed up to Rightmove very, very early on, many, many years ago. And the truth and the reality is that, in my view, that Rightmove has a brand and a recognition that, forget what agents, people like me and you and any other agent thinks, the average person in the street know Rightmove. They know what it stands for. They know what it is. And it's a very, very easy, move to go straight to Rightmove because it's a formed habit. In fact, I believe that Rightmove is in fact now classed as a hobby. It is a hobby because people like to look at property. As long as I've been in the business, that's always been the case. And as a result of that, the truth of it is the amount of quality referrals that we get, leads, and that's what it's all about. And, the decisions we've taken in Webbers over the years, I can say with hand on heart, we take those decisions based on, is it good for the business? If it wasn't good for the business, we wouldn't be with Rightmove. We chose to come out of the property papers or the news press some years ago because we could see it wasn't good for our business anymore. In fact, it was probably Rightmove at the time that took its place. So we're there because it's good for the business, because we know that our customers, they do expect property to be there, and the results are, it is delivering, and that has to be the most important part of any marketing decision that an agent takes. And of course, cost comes into it. There comes a place where you have to look at your ingoings and your outgoings. So looking ahead, do I think that Rightmove are wise enough to be thinking about the world of AI and how that will impact on search? I'd be amazed if they're not, because, most agents are looking at how AI will impact on search. And we all know that AI will make search a lot more, I suppose, detailed. Someone will be able to put in, a 3-bedroom cottage with a blue door, walking distance from the seafront, and close to a school, and it will serve those properties up. So I believe that Rightmove, and I'm sure any other portal, probably our own portal as well, at some point, we will build that type of stuff in. And I think I should, I always like to be, you'd know me long enough to know I'd always give you an honest appraisal. And I would say that our BDM, our local business development manager here in the West Country, she has been very, very good. And I do think, and if you like, if I would give a tip, I'd say make use of your BDM, because actually when it comes to stats, when it comes to information, Rightmove have a lot of detail. They have a lot of data, and they've been very helpful, particularly with new homes for us. And, I'd like to think that we do. I'm not saying that we have them on toast. That isn't fair, but we do make use of our BDM to support our business. And I do think that it's important to do that as an agent. If you're paying for a service, then make sure that you interact, make sure that you sort of talk to them. So I think where we are at the moment, it is still good for our business, Sam. That's the reality.
Yeah. It's hard, isn't it? Because I do feel like we're over a barrel a little bit, and obviously the stronger Rightmove gets, the less anybody can afford any of the portals anyway. That's the irony. So as soon as Rightmove puts their fees up, some agents are going to drop Zoopla, or they're going to drop on the market. So it just makes them stronger and stronger.
I suppose the argument is, would you want to pay to go on any portal if it wasn't delivering the results and people weren't, buyers weren't going there? It's, you have to also look at your sellers, your buyers, and their habits, and those habits are hard to break. We all know how hard, as someone who's involved in training, habits are really tough to break, and that's just a reality.
Going back to what we're saying about AI, what I can't get my head around, and I'm sure you've got a more informed answer than I'm trying to reach, is in terms of the CPR, what used to be called the Property Misdescriptions Act, back in the day that you and I remember. An entity, an advertising entity, has to take legal responsibility for the listing of a house, right? So if you say it's a 20-foot living room, somebody has to be able to be sued along that, or held accountable for that description. And as we know, agents have been fined for misdescriptions. And as far as I understand, a member of the public, the owner, can't be sued in the same way for advertising online their property. So there has to be an intermediary. There has to be a broker of some kind, which is why Rightmove then doesn't have to take responsibility legally for the listing. So if you took Rightmove out of the equation, then what's to stop anybody just putting their house online somehow, even on Facebook, and then AI scraping that data? So in other words, that would turn into a caveat emptor, right? Like Auto Trader is, where you have to just buy as you see it. Buyer beware. I feel like because of the way Rightmove is putting their fees up again and again and again, then some people are going to go, right, well, I can't do that anymore. What are the alternatives? And I don't know how AI is going to get that information, make it publicly available, and then who takes responsibility legally for that listing?
It's a great question. I don't, going back a stage, in terms of the fees, the Rightmove fees, I believe it's almost like, valuing a property, and I know there comes a point when you push a price to a level where you simply don't get the interest, and that you've hit that level. I do think that there will come a point when that is, who knows, but there will come a point where there will be that resistance. And I think just as the same way estate agents over the years have gone from just selling houses to looking at conveyancing, financial services, referrals, the list goes on. I'm sure that not just Rightmove, but I'm sure all of the others will look at other ways to increase their revenue. They'll have to.
Well, they have in the last few years started taking advertising, haven't they? You see removals on there and insurance on there. Where else do they want to squeeze that money? I'm not bashing Rightmove. I just think that if they were there to support the agents, I feel that we would all have a better impression of them and their profits would be a little less bloody.
They are a different beast to the other portals. Of course they are. But, the reality is they built that. No, agents have helped to build that through the marketing that people like Webbers and other agents carried out some years ago to really entrench them as the name. But I think really the other portals, I worry that they don't really have that momentum. Is what I see or don't see. Yeah.
Well, when Agents Mutual made it obligatory, you could only be on one other portal, that basically killed Zoopla at that moment, didn't it?
But I think the other part of your question there, in terms of people putting their properties direct, I still firmly believe, and I do think honestly that Rightmove also believe that there needs to be an agent in the mix.
I do think that Rightmove thinks that. They'd have to advertise with 1.2 million different vendors if they went direct, which would be a bit of a nightmare for them, I'm sure.
And I think the UK, probably more so than most, it is a people's business. I was just hosting with one of my colleagues in this room I'm sat yesterday, an induction meeting with 7 or 8 new staff. And I always start the meeting by saying, we're a people's business. We just happen to sell property. And I believe that Rightmove and others and people out there recognise that people are important in this. We are important in this. So, I still personally don't believe, and even the sort of the EXPs of this world. When I hear recently that the first EXP offices have been opened, that says everything, doesn't it? It says everything, because we all know that one person cannot look after a decent volume of instructions thoroughly and properly. And as someone once said to me, where do they keep the keys? Literally, where do they keep the keys? It's a great question to ask. But the point I make is that offices and a team of people are needed to get through this process. It's a stressful process because of the system that the UK has, and I don't see it changing too much too soon. And therefore, what we do works. What we do
I completely
works.
agree.
We have professionals to see the sale through. I mean, our sales progression team had probably, in recent times, have been the most important person in the office to make sure that the deal gets through because it's been so tough. These are things that an individual simply can't do. And that's why a team of people, a team of professionals, I still believe is right for property in the UK.
I completely agree with you. I'm going to come on to your market actually in a minute because I'm interested to hear, because we have a lot of crossover in our markets. But one final thought about Rightmove, which I'd love to get your take on, is I feel that the Rightmove price hikes have been instrumental in growing in an accelerated way the likes of EXP, because those individuals, those agents, those personal agents can't afford Rightmove on their own. So basically they've collaborated with a head office who then pays for Rightmove. And I think that has accelerated the growth of the personal agent model in the UK. What do you think?
Yeah, there must be a position where, whether it's, and I'm guessing, and I don't honestly know, but I'm guessing that all of the portals will, offer these sorts of deals. In fact, some will allow you to list a property for nothing. So it's so inconsistent, Sam.
I know it is.
It's so inconsistent. And honestly, I think over the years, and we're part of the Guild, we're part of RAN, I'm in the IEAG group, and of course we talk. We're human beings, we're bound to talk. And honestly, I think you've got to give up almost in making comparisons, because every agent is so different. Even an agent that you thinks similarly to you, we don't always think that way. And what I think is important, another agent doesn't think is important. Some agents think it's good to have the valuation tool. I may not. And the thing is, it is a fairly complicated model in terms of the costing. And we all know that depending on what you spend and where you spend it will depend upon what your discount is. And of course, there is scale that comes into it. I just think you've got to give up trying to make comparisons, because I just don't think you can. I think that you would lose an awful lot of time. And in the end, what it comes down to is looking at your business and saying, right, what's my business model? What's my business plan? What do I need to do? And what do my customers want? And you can only take the decisions that's right for your business. And I can honestly say that decisions we've taken over the years have always been, as a board, sitting down and saying, right, what do we know we need to have in this business? You've got to sometimes just forget what the others are doing.
Yeah, just see the bigger picture.
This is what we have to do. This is what we need to do. And and I know that agents don't work well together. They might think they do, but they don't.
If they do work well together, it's probably not good for business anyway, because it needs to have a competitive edge.
We work well together when we work in different locations.
Yeah, like you and I.
And that's got to be the case because we're in a competitive business, and that's bound to be the case.
Tell me about the market where you are then at the moment, because what we were talking about the other day was the fact that we have a great deal of discretionary purchases and sales, because we're a holiday let area and a second home area. We were just talking about this morning, actually, Phil and I saying that the latest holiday let rules, which a lot of people won't be aware of, even if you're listening to this, if you're in an urban area, have made it really, really expensive to buy a second home now, second, third, etc. What is it like where you are?
Honestly, we're the same. What's happened in your lovely part of the world is exactly what has happened, particularly in the coastal locations here as well. We're in exactly the same position. It's made a big dent in that market for sure. We are quite lucky in as much as an agent, we do tend to cover everything from a first time buyer 2-bed home through to a fine and country property in the middle of Exmoor at 3 million. So we do have a broad range of property. So hopefully if one area of the market isn't doing so well, there's another area that is. We've also got plenty of new homes. We've got, I think, 22 active new home sites at the moment, particularly in North Devon. So I think that at some point there's always one part of the market that seems to be doing okay.
Yeah, which is a problem that we have really when we've niched the way we have. When our part of the market doesn't move, we're a bit stuck. We have moved into ancillary services, which we've never really done before. So we're now teaming up with, FS and solicitors, etc. We hadn't really done that before. But this has really forced us to look at it. I think when the market is lean, it's a really good time to review, well, preferably just before it becomes lean, review things like your expenses. We managed to knock £44,000 of expenses out of the P&L this year, which is amazing. And then add in a load of ancillary services as well. And I think that's what you've got to do if you've niched. But I think that the way that the government is standing in our way of allowing people to have multiple homes or even a holiday let, so a commercial home, is really putting the squeezes on our area, and as it will do to quite a lot of other holiday kind of areas in the UK as well. What are you doing, if anything, to counteract then? So obviously you've got other parts of the market like land and new homes. What else have you got?
Well, I mean, in terms of our plan, if you like, we will continue to develop and grow our new homes business. We have got a strong rentals book. We've got about 1,000 properties under management, but we'd like to see that grow as well. And we're also looking at, if you like, putting forward different ways and means of choice for our customers. So we are looking very closely at the blended fee option for our customers. So
how does that work?
So essentially, if a customer would like to save money on their fee, they can do so by making a marketing commitment from day one. And so if a customer makes a marketing commitment, and let's just say for round figures, £300, that may then reduce your end fee by a little at the end. So the more that a client pays initially, the more they save. It's not something we're saying has to be done, but we're giving, I think, our plan is in the new year to actually start that process of giving our clients the choice to save by paying a little more at the point of instruction. The reality is quite a few of our clients do pay for a marketing commitment up front in any case because of our video work and the extra things that we do to launch a property, particularly in Fine & Country, where we have a niche product, as you probably have heard of them, and it's a professional way to get your property into the market, and there is an upfront contribution for that. But our clients in that area have been quite comfortable to pay that because they're dedicated and they're keen to sell their properties. So that's something that we're looking to do in the new year.
That's smart. I'd love to know how that goes on. In terms of the market that you cover, then obviously you've got land and new homes. You've also got properties, as you said, from the lowest of flats all the way up to 3-4 million. Did you say? Is that kind of the top of your market?
Yep.
And we're going to talk about telephone training really, but when somebody gets on the phone to book a viewing or evaluation, how confident are you that your team can handle from very low to very high? I think that's quite a challenge, isn't it? To be able to handle all ends of that market.
That's a really, really good question. But part of the Fine & Country service is that we have had to commit to, and I think it's the right thing, by the way, we've committed to there being a Fine & Country dedicated line to each of our offices.
Oh, okay.
So it's very clear who we're dealing with so that the right person gets the right person. Now, the reality is if there's illness and what have you, then that may not always happen 100% of the time. That's just life. But to the best part, the Fine & Country line goes to the Fine & Country person who knows about the Fine & Country market and can deal proficiently with those properties. So there is a definition between the two. There is a definite line between the two.
That's smart. I like that. We've got an agency here that's got Fine & Country, and it hasn't got very many staff. In fact, if you're listening to this, then hopefully I'm being accurate in my review. But when you walk in the door, it's got Fine & Country over one side, the name of the agency on the other side, and when you walk in, you're just in an open office. So there isn't really a dedicated Fine & Country part. There's a Fine & Country pen on that desk and an owned brand mug on that desk, and so there's no partition. With your phone, you're going to get, potluck really. And so my challenge is always that I feel that if somebody's trying to sell a 5 or 10 million pound property, your team have got to be so well trained to be able to handle that kind of inquiry, because they are usually, not always, but usually a discerning person with a lot of demands, and they need a lot of data. And so usually what they do is they phone up and they ask for the director straight away. But if the director isn't available, then can our team handle that call? And that's why we put so much into telephone training. And we've talked about telephone training recently, you and I. What would you like to share?
Yeah, I mean, the truth of it is, I think that any business that relies so heavily on their phones, and more so than ever, because we all know that although our high street offices do still see a lot of people, and I think it's important to say that, otherwise we wouldn't commit to the expenditure of a high street office. And I've always said, as an aside note, if you want to hit the whole of market, you have to instruct a high street agent, because there is still a percentage, whatever it is, 20-25% of people will go to an agent's office. But that's another story. But of course, over the years, more and more people have contacted agents by phone rather than visit. So honestly, I think the only way, and we've spoken recently, we had our conference, not last week, the week before. And part of that conference was me saying that, you'll be chuffed to bits to know that there will be more mystery shops coming your way. Because, we need to make certain that we keep our standards up. And if you take any team, any sporting team, the reason why they keep doing what they do is because they train every day. And I do think as agents, we don't train enough. That's just the truth. And that's a commitment that we made in our conference, that we do need to give our staff even more support, even more training, to make sure that we keep our standards at the level that we know they should be. And I would say that anybody out there, if they're honest, would say the same thing. You cannot retain exceptional levels if you don't regularly give your team that extra bit of training and support that they deserve and need. And that's a place where we are at the moment, because we think that we're in that place where we need to have a fresh look at that. So more coming our way.
So we do a lot of training on telephone training internally, as you know, and we've got, whole modules on it. We've got like cheat sheets on it. If you want to see one of our cheat sheets, by the way, just let me know, sam@ajmastermind.co.uk, and I'll send one out to you. Send one out to you, actually, Malcolm. We've got a cheat sheet for valuation calls and cheat sheet for viewings calls. And basically it looks like a bit like a mind map. So rather than being a long list of things, which reads like a script, it's a bit more visual. So they can just go, who recommended us, or, tell me about your house, and those kind of more open questions. I'm a big believer in testing knowledge, but that comes with the training in the first place, doesn't it? So what we do is we put a lot of time and effort into the training so that we then earn the right to be able to test them. I remember talking to, I won't tell you who it was actually, but it's an agent not that far away from you. And years ago, he said he targeted his team on Rightmove click-through rates when they were a thing. And I said, okay, how do they get the click-through rate up? And he goes, well, I don't care. And I said, well, how are you targeting them then if you don't give them any training on it, what they're supposed to do? How do they know? They might have a target of 5%, they're getting 3%. How do you get from 3 to 5? And that's really the question, isn't it? Is where are they now? What would we call it RAG rating, red, amber, green. Where would they rate themselves? Now let's listen back to a call together that they know was going to be recorded. Now where would you rate yourself? Where could you improve? And then we work on helping them improve. We also do a monthly, and I've mentioned this on the pod before, mystery shop, where we will call an agent in a different part of the country, and we will pose as a buyer, and we will ask them to send us a brochure. Very, very simple request. And we've tried corporates, independents, EXPs, traditional, everybody. And I don't think anybody's ever had a full 10 out of 10 scorecard ever. And I'd love to think our team do, but the reason that we do it on an external company, external agency, and we don't ever give them feedback, by the way, maybe we should, is because it's easier, I think, to rate somebody else's call and see where you're going wrong rather than to look at yourself.
Yeah. I mean, you and I have spoken about this quite a lot recently, and I came to you because I know that you know the business, having known you so long, and I do look at your work that you put out to the profession, the industry. I always call it a profession, not an industry, because I always think an industry makes
you're right.
things,
I like that.
whereas we're a profession. But I do look at all of the posts that you put up on LinkedIn, and I really felt that you'd be able to help because you understand the business. And I do think there is a real balance. Our staff are really, really clever people. A lot of them have been working with us for 20, 30 years. So I do think it needs, if you really want to improve, I do think it's important to connect with someone that knows the profession, that understands the standards, that understands the pressures as well of what it's like to work in an agency office at the moment. It's no secret, we've had a mystery shop, and the work that you've helped us with there has been excellent. We've really, really appreciated that. And the timing has been perfect. And it will definitely, you could argue we've gone around the wrong way. And I do appreciate what you say, which is that let's do the training first, and then we'll do some mystery shops to see where we are. And I think from my point of view, right or wrong, I think we felt that it would be good just to see where we are. I
think that's a valid point. I think as long as I'm not telling you how to do this, I'm just thinking as a theory, whether you could do a mystery shop and then not go back to that team member and criticise, because if you're not 100% that your training's landed, not you, but the general you, then I'd be wanting, it's just chicken and egg, isn't it? Do you test and then train and then test again? Because actually, if let's say you went to a PT for the first time, they'd want to test you where you were. And I know that a lot of people say, well, I'd want to get fit before I went to a PT. And so it's this chicken and egg, isn't it? To get fit, go to PT, get tested.
Do you know something that you mentioned, which, and it's amazing how these things happen, but you said that when you received some details from one of our offices, that you were a bit disappointed that you didn't have a little handwritten note. And the following day, I've got this in front of me, it's especially for you, that card, and written on the back, it says, "Thank you for your purchase. I hope that you are pleased with it. Best wishes, Patty." Now, that, believe it or not, was a small piece of material, that big. And I ordered that online on Wednesday last week. And then on Saturday, this little brown envelope came through with a postcard with that message on it. And I immediately thought of you and thought about what you said. And I thought, I need to show you that. Because the truth is, Sam, you are right. If we are going to stand aside as being different and better than the rest, and also give validation to the reason why you should work with a company that's got a high street office, you've got to stand out as being different. And something as simple as a little handwritten note to say, really look forward to seeing you when you're next down in the West Country, Sam. Lovely to talk to you. That takes 10 seconds and it should be done. And, for me, it was amazing that in the same week you said it, and then I had that through. And that was an £8.36 piece of material.
Oh my goodness, that just says it all, doesn't it? Not an £800,000
It was a little piece of Liberty fabric.
Wow, that's amazing. I must admit, actually, with the kind of rise of the mini boutiques, when you can order on eBay or Etsy or whatever, whenever I get something that's from a pro seller, as it were, that's how it comes. It comes beautifully wrapped. Might have a couple of little sweets in it, and it'll be a little handwritten note. And because people want reviews, don't they? They want to create a good sort of impression so that they can increase their reviews. I mean, that's a bit mercenary, but they want to improve the buyer experience in a way that you don't get from going to Next. And little touches like that make a massive difference. I don't want to throw it away when I get it. I want to keep it. I want to show people. I want to take a picture of it. I want to thank them. I want to immediately go and put a review on. So why aren't we doing the same with agency? So something that we've started doing, and we've not been doing it for very long, is when we send out our brochures, and they are beautiful brochures. I'll send you one actually as a pack, Malcolm. We wrap them in tissue paper that is branded tissue paper that we've had hand drawn by our designer. Then I think they get a little sticker. I'm not sure if they get a ribbon. I think we might have canned the ribbon. It was getting a bit expensive. It goes in a nice big envelope, and we put a little bit of Kendall mint cake in it as well. And then it gets a handwritten note and a handwritten address, addressed envelope. So the whole impact when it arrives, I think, is strong and, I don't know, kind and warm. It's got a nice feeling when you open it that you've asked for this thing, and then your request has been welcomed. Whereas I speak to many agents, and when we do the mystery shops, where the request to have a brochure sent in the post is met with resistance at the very least. And I think that what we've got to realise is that there's no way that tech can ever set us apart from each other. All tech is racing so fast that we're all going to be on the same level. Whether you're Savills or whether you're in EXP or whether you're, Joe Brown from the back room office. So the only thing that can help us stand apart is that experience that person feels, is the feeling, the emotion they get of working with us. And that's why when we charge the fees we do, and people are, on the whole, happy to pay for them because of the experience they've had. And we don't always get it right, but we try really hard through training to get it right. And I think that's what differentiates us.
I think, the truth of it is, when the market is challenging, and the market isn't bad at the moment, we know that. It's not bad. A bad market is 2007. But it's challenging to get people to take decisions. So, in real terms, you really do want that person to come and see you when they're next in the area. It is genuine. You genuinely do want to say, please pop in and see us. I'd love to meet you. Love to, talk to you about the area a bit more, and let's have a cup of coffee. I think that, yes, it might sound like it's the ideal world, but I do feel that it's a small gesture. And, we did this some years ago where we looked at our business, and all of the discussions I've had with you recently about business and about improvements, it's really made me go back through and think about some of the things that we did so well. And one of those things was to look at every part of our business where we're in contact with the customer. Just those points when we're in contact. How can we improve them a little bit? What is it that we can do a little bit better in all of those things? And if everyone starts doing these things, it is bound to have an effect. So it's been great to sort of, when you're so busy, to take a step back and really make sure that you're getting some of these basic, or as Ian McKenzie quite rightly said recently, it's not back to basics, it's focus on the essentials.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Our training is called Set Essential Training. It says behind you as well, for those of you who are not seeing this, you're just listening, a century of caring for your happiness and your home, which is actually part of that feeling, isn't it? It's part of that feeling that the general public needs to feel that when they're having that contact with you. By the way, something we've just done this morning, which is why it's on my mind, is we do something called strategic planning questions, or strategic thinking questions it is at this stage. We do a quarterly plan. I'm sure you do a quarterly plan as well. We actually get our team members involved with this. I don't know if you do this or you thought of it. We do kind of a SWOT analysis. It's there's 6 questions. I think it's strengths, weaknesses, wins, lessons, opportunities, threats. And the team does it. So we've just done it this morning for an hour and a half in the team meeting. Edward, our operations manager, collates all the answers. He highlights anything that appears more than once. Phil and I take a couple of days off site, and we then create and design our strategic plan for the next quarter and often beyond. And then at the end of the year, we do it for the following year. And so that everybody feels listened to and heard about what they think about the business and what we could improve. And it's almost always touch points that they raise. That's where they want to, because that's what they feel. That's where the rubber meets the road, right? So they're feeling that in the phone call or send out. They want to improve their part of that process, which I think is great.
Now, again, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats is something that we earlier this year, sat down with the local directors, our managers, and said, look, you need to sit down with your team and go through that because it will help you understand what you're up against. But again, when the market rolls on, it's easy to not review it. And dare I say, and I hope you don't mind, but I did do a little bit of stealing of your ideas, and I did bring one that I prepared earlier. And I'm assuming that, I mean, this would have come, honestly.
Tell everybody what this is for those of you just listening.
So this is the market response plan for facing the autumn market. And I spotted something that you'd done on LinkedIn. And it just, at the time I was thinking about, I need to think a little bit more closely about how we approach the autumn. So I read what you'd put together and I thought, bang, this is bang on what we need to be doing. So as a result of what you did there, I plagiarized, I Webberized it.
Oh, I'm so glad you did. Well done.
I Webberized it. But it really did, you know, I'd like to think give the offices and the managers some real support in terms of saying, right, this is how you need to take a step back and just put a few things in place to make sure that your staff are motivated, their morale is in the right place, and they can see there's a plan to cope with the next 3 months before we hit the new financial year, the new year. And I just think it took away the chaos of the market and put some structure to it. So the timing for that, for me, was bang on. And if there's, you know, and I'm not just saying this, if there's anyone listening, honestly, it's well worth the effort. It's well worth the effort.
So what Malcolm's talking about is a free market response plan for summer, actually it was, for 2025, but ready to go into the autumn market, you're quite right. And I need to probably do another one autumn to go into the January market. And it was a plan to keep the team motivated, keep them on board, figure out what you're going to do with cash when cash isn't coming in. You know, we've had probably our worst quarter. We weren't open in 2007, as you know, but our worst quarter since we opened. And it's what our backup plans have been and what we're doing to mitigate those cash flow challenges. But the most important thing I felt, and hopefully it's come across in that market response plan, is how you keep your team motivated and happy and not wanting to leave because, you know, everybody's in a bad mood all the time. And you've got 138 staff, is it?
Yeah, 138. And the words that I did use, which, you know, you'll see there, is we keep calm. We keep calm. And that was really important, that we work in calm waters because we've got a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I, you know, it was just such good timing for me, having sat down with a series of notes. I then saw your market response and I thought, wow, hold on a minute. This is, and as I say, it's been very, very useful. And, you know, I've been in the business now 38, 40 years and, you know, I'm ready to keep learning and keep picking up great ideas. And honestly, it was a really great timing.
Oh, I'm really glad. Well, I can't take all the credit. I'll just take 99% of the credit. I'll give 1% of the credit to Phil for the Calm Waters idea. And he has an Operation Calm Waters meeting every week now with the team. And really, it's just about, you know, back to basics or back to essentials, as Ian McKenzie says, and make sure we're doing the right things right. And then make sure we're just noticing people's mood, the mood of the office. Phil's making an extra effort, I've noticed, to keep, to keep talking to people, make sure that everybody's kind of facing the same direction. And I think it's times like this that make you realise that's the most important thing. When it's super busy and properties are flying off the shelves, it's great, but you don't get a chance to do this. So this is actually a really good wake-up call, I think, for us all. So before we wrap up then, Malcolm, because I've kept you way longer than I said, so, and thank you. It's always lovely talking to you. We talk about all kinds of different topics. What would you say to those agents right now who are facing or in the middle of a very difficult market? And what are your predictions for the next year, having seen many, many of these difficult markets in the past?
I think, you know, in terms of my advice, honestly, I think you've just said it in many ways. I do think that great communication and keeping your staff in the picture and the morale in the right place with the focus in the right place is absolutely critical at the moment, because there's an awful lot of, and I'll refer to Roger Martin Fagg, the economist, who said recently that there is some great news out there. It's just that the British press and media don't want to tell us. So they're making people feel fearful, and people are therefore not spending their money, which is a problem. Yeah. So by just talking realistically and dealing in the facts, and the facts are that actually it is not a bad market. It isn't a bad market. And I think that there's quite a relief in our conference, I think, when we said, look, guys, this isn't a bad market. What we've got to do is make sure we're doing the right things and focus on the essentials. So I'd be focused on the essentials. I would be trying to achieve great communication and appreciation of what's being done. That's not to say that we should be frightened of pulling things up when they're not going well, because, you know, it is all about getting it right. In terms of looking at next year, I actually think that what we've got is what we've got. I don't see any huge event ahead of us to change things a great deal. I see a very similar market next year where pricing is going to be important. We know that long-term money is, there's another fact, you know, 65, 70% loan to value. What is it? 3.89, 3.9% fixed rate, 5 years. So it's not about, you know, expensive money. Money is cheap. It's not about choice. There's 25% more properties on the market than there was this time last year. So it's not about choice. It's not about that. It's about sentiment. It's about sentiment and positivity. So I think that the best thing agents can honestly do is to build that confidence and that positive sentiment in their staff, which then hopefully will brush out on the customer, and the customer will start to feel that positivity. Because until we get a positive sentiment, that money's just going to stay in people's back pockets. That's what's happening at the moment.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It just made me think, actually, that something that we don't do well enough, I don't think we equip, and I say we as an Ashdown Jones, don't think we equip our team to be able to handle that kind of difficult questioning from a member of the public that says, how's the market doing at the moment? I don't think we've equipped them. I think we probably need to have a good conversation about that. So to make sure that they feel that sentiment, and then, as you say, that sentiment gets projected back to the caller or the viewer or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think we will do that. Thank you. This has been fun.
My first podcast interview.
Really?
Thank you for going easy on me.
Well, not next time then. I'll go in a bit harder. You'll get inundated now with calls from all kinds of people. Oprah will probably be on the phone to you next.
Oh, I wouldn't think so.
And the like. No, thank you. I do really appreciate your frankness, and it's nice to be able to talk to somebody who's been around the block, as have I, and you've got quite a pragmatic, calm aura around you, and that has got to help when times are tough. But you're right, it's not a really challenging market. It's just, we can't always expect it to be easy. And we have had it easy recently, haven't we? I must admit, in the time we've been open, which is only eight and a half, nearly 9 years, I think we've only had one normal year. Every other year has been either up or down on normal. But that is just life, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, we've always said that we can't change what's happening out there. We can't change the economy, but what we can do is change what happens within our four walls. We can change how we deal with things. And, you know, that's one of the parts that I'd like to think that we will improve further. We're not standing still, honestly. There's a big banana skin around every corner. And I know that through our mystery shop recently, we got, you know, a couple of really good results, but we got a couple there which aren't really where we need to be. That's just the reality. But hopefully that's a sign of a good business, one that is prepared to look at itself in the mirror and say, right, how can we make sure that we get this right? And we're 100%, not 80%.
Completely agree.
So yes, I've enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
No, thank you, Malcolm. Really appreciate it. And if anybody wants to go and look you up, they can have a look at it's Webbers just .co.uk, isn't it?
That's it. Webbers.co.uk. We do have a customer care team that's open from 8 until 8 as well. So info at webbers.co.uk. So when most agents are closed at 5 or 6 o'clock, we're still going till 8. And they're a head office based team, by the way, Sam. They're not in another country. They're here.
That's good to know. Well, yeah, I love the fact that you're pushing the envelope all the time. That's another string to add to your bow, isn't it? Another reason for a vendor to use you. So thank you very much indeed, Malcolm. And we will speak very soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Sam.